this question, a sentence has been divided into several parts. One of these parts has an error. Choose the option that has the part of the sentence with the error. So the aim is to identify that part which has the error. It's very important that you read the instructions for all the questions on verbal ability, because unlike in math or other areas, there is a whole lot of question types we have on verbal ability. So please do not ever answer a question, even if it looks familiar, without reading the instructions. Let's get started. So it says, I need a paper to write down the details that I've managed to get. 4 options, so we have to focus only on the parts the sentence is broken down into. I need a paper to write down the details that I've managed to get. So if you see, I need, I subject to the sentence, need is the verb, we know need agrees with I, so it doesn't seem to have an error in that part. A paper, this is where we need to focus, because paper is a material noun. Just like your gold. So you cannot say I need a gold, right? There are several material nouns that do not just like have your gold have singular forms. So when you look at different material nouns, so you cannot say I need silver, etc. So you do not say I have a silver or I have a gold. With soap as well, but nowadays when you say a soap, it refers singular forms. So when you look at different material, so you cannot say I need silver, that as well as that. So you do not say I need. And then you cannot say or I have a gold. You can say a sheet of paper. With soap as well, but nowadays when you say a, so on. So a paper doesn't make sense, but you can say a newspaper. That's fine, because here the reference is to the set of the set of sheets that arrive as one newspaper. However, we do not have a paper because paper is a material noun. You have to use it with a unit of measurement. It can be a sheet of paper, a piece of paper, or a full set, basically, any of these things. So do not ever say a paper. You can say a sheet. I need a sheet to write the details on, right? Back to the presentation. So that part is definitely erroneous. So I need a paper is incorrect. Your answer should be option B. Sorry. Your answer should be option B. To write down the details that I've managed to get. Write down is a decent phrasal verb, the details that I've managed to get. Everything else looks okay, so your answer should be option B. Let's go forward. Let's look at the next question. Last night, the principal of the school took us to his chamber to show us the picture of the student who steals the school bell. So last night is an important indicator, if you see. This as well is a sentence, an error identification question type. So here as well, the sentence is being divided into several parts. You have to identify the part with the error. So the principal of the school took us to his chamber to show us the picture of the student who steals the school bell. See, the entire action was in the past tense. So when you have a sudden shift in tense, you have to be careful. The principal of the school took past tense, us to his chamber to show us the picture of the student who steals the school bell. So this also happened in the past. So when you have two actions in the past, the action that happened earlier should usually be reported in the past tense, the past perfect tense. So you say, who had stolen the school bell, because this happened even before the principal's action of taking you there, right? So when you have a verb that is in a different tense from the rest of the sentence, it basically calls for more attention to make sure you haven't missed the sequence of tenses, right? So your answer should be option D here. I believe that's clear. However, there are such special cases in which you do not, there is a definite shift in verbs. It happens especially when you have things like universal truth. So you say, my teacher said that the earth revolves around the sun. It is a universal truth. You do not say the earth revolved around the sun, because even now it's revolving. So when your teacher made a statement, even when you are making the statement to someone else, it's still a continuous action. Therefore, it should be reported in the simple present because it's a universal truth. There are exceptions, but barring exceptions, usually when you have a sudden change in the tense, the sentence, the meaning of the sentence tells you that it's in the past tense. However, you have one or more verbs in the present tense or any other tense for that matter. You have to be careful about possible errors. Let's look at the next question here. Despite of sustained and renewed efforts by the country since its independence from colonial rule, poverty is still rampant in India. So despite of is an erroneous usage. You can say in spite of, where in spite and of are three separate words, or you can simply use despite. Despite sustained and renewed efforts by the country, since its independence from colonial rule, poverty is still rampant in India. Despite of is erroneous usage. You either say despite or in spite of. So there's no despite of, right? Clearly, it is option one. So there are certain connectors like these which tend to have multiple words in them, and you have to be careful about how to use them. These are called multi-word prepositions. So when you look at things like as much as, or notwithstanding, which is one word, or in as much as, so on, or by dint of, due to, etc., you have to be careful of their structure. So there's no despite of, right? It should be despite directly. Therefore, there is an error. So some errors pretty easy. So if you ask me, this question is an easy question type if you've used despite before. But the only source of confusion here is your ability to distinguish between in spite of and despite. Let's go to the next question. Are bananas in the shop sold by kilo or by the dozen? So are, bananas is the plural, so are tells you that there is a plural word, right next to it is fine. In this shop sold by kilo or by the dozen. So you're asking a question, and there are two things here. On either side of or, you have to make sure they're parallel in one way. When you use by to indicate the measurement, it always takes the by the kilo or by the dozen. This is a slightly old-fashioned usage, but it is still considered very formal. So you should use by the kilo. You can say by the dozen, you can say by the gram, you can say, by any unit for that matter, by the any unit for that matter. By can also be used with duration, with times of the day, or by the night. You can say things like owls hunt by the night, etc. By has several meanings. Prepositions are pretty versatile. So a good thing for you to do would be to prepare a list of common prepositions and look at them at dictionary entries. The dictionary gives you the entire list of uses. So if you take by, for example, you talk about you swear by someone, then you can say you live by a place, like you can say things like he lives by the seashore, so on. So you have so many uses of by, into, etc. Some of them slightly unconventional, slightly old-fashioned, traditional that they've fallen out of use, but they can still appear on the tests. That's why we need by the kilo, right? Let's look at the next one. He's a smart boy, but he's not clever to solve this problem enough. If you look at the instructions, it says the sentence has a phrase or a part highlighted. Choose the most appropriate replacement for the phrase or part from the options given. So the part that's highlighted is this: not clever to solve this problem enough. So this enough is a very peculiar adverb in terms of the position that it takes. So you can say something is not enough when it is used as when it is used probably in that sense, but when in that fashion, when you talk about enough being an adverb, it comes immediately after the adjective, not before. For example, look at this. He is very clever. But you do not say he is enough clever. You say he is clever enough. In terms of the position, enough is a pretty peculiar adverb. So you cannot say he's enough clever. You should say he's clever enough, especially as an adverb. Or he's not clever enough. So he's a smart boy, but he's not clever enough should be the right way of paraphrasing this. Let's see. Option 1 says clever, not enough. That's incorrect. Not clever enough seems to be fine. Not clever enough, this problem to solve is wrong. To solve this problem is okay. Not enough clever. Enough comes before the adjective, clever. So this is one particular adverb which comes after clever. This as well makes this wrong. So your answer should be option 2. So clever, as I told you, is a peculiar adverb. While all the other adverbs which qualify adjectives come before them, it is enough has this very special property that it comes immediately after. Okay, let's go forward. There is another such adjective. I don't know if you've come across this adjective called galore. Galore means a lot. So they say there are problems galore, meaning a lot of. This is another such. This is an adjective. There are problems galore. You do not say there are galore problems. There are galore problems. Sorry, problems galore, meaning there are lots of such problems. Let's look at the next question in the set. If she knew it beforehand, she would have been more cautious. Again here, same instruction, same set of instructions. A part has been underlined. We have to identify the best replacement for it. So this is essentially, this tests your knowledge of conditionals. Whenever you have an if clause followed by a result clause, you should be able to immediately conclude that this tests your knowledge of conditionals. Let's briefly review conditionals before we look at the question. So conditionals essentially in English are of 4 kinds. We have the zero conditional, the first, the second, and the third conditionals. However, let's not discuss the zero conditional today. Let's discuss only the first, second, and the third because they are pretty common as questions on your campus recruitment tests. So the first conditional is something which we use day in and day out. It talks about what is likely to happen if if a result which leads to it happens. So if it rains, we will not play the match, or we shall not play the match. Look at that. If it rains, so you're talking about something that is likely to happen, all right? The second conditional is used to talk about the imaginary present. There is no equivalent in Indian languages to the imaginary present conditional, so you have to be super careful with it. In that, the if clause takes the simple past. So there are situations like, imagine, if I were in Delhi, or if it rained, which means right now it's not raining. What it means is, imagine a present in which it was raining, something like this. If I had long hair, I do not have long hair now, but I'm talking about an imaginary present, right? If I wore white, I'm not wearing white, I'm wearing black, but if I wore white, I would not be visible because the screen behind me is white. So anything that is not true in the present, but as an extrapolation, as a hypothesis, when you want to put it forward, an imaginary present, an unlikely present, we use that. Then we have the unfulfilled past, something that never happened in the past, but you're just theorizing what would have happened if only it had happened. That is the third conditional. So this question draws your attention to the usage of the third conditional. She would have been more cautious tells you that she wasn't more cautious, that she wasn't more cautious, and she would have been more cautious, means she wasn't. If only this condition had been fulfilled, this would have happened. So if she knew it beforehand, should be if she had known. We use the past perfect here to talk about a past action, a past condition that was never fulfilled. So your answer is option 3. Only 3 conditionals are usually tested on the examination, so it shouldn't be a big deal for you. You can just look at the syntax of all the 3 and then get them right. Let's look at the 7th question. The woman to who I sold my house was a doctor. So you have to identify the grammatically correct one from the list here. The woman to who I sold my house was a doctor. The woman that I sell my house was a doctor. The woman to whom I sold my house was a doctor. The woman who the house I sold to was a doctor. Now look at all of these. If you are a pretty fluent speaker in English, it shouldn't be very difficult for you to identify the answer. But let's look at the rules and grammar as well. To is a preposition.
after a preposition, you usually have the objective cases. So you do not say, he gave the pen to I, you say, he gave the pen to me. So after to, what you need is usually the objective case of the relative pronoun. Who is the subjective case? It acts as the subject. Whom is the objective case? And whose is the possessive or the genitive. Objective is also called the accusative, sometimes the predicative. Who is called the subjective or the nominative, and whose is the possessive. So we take the objective case here because the woman to whom I sold my house. Or when you're in doubt, try to make a sentence out of the relative clause, just the relative clause there. I sold my house to a woman. So it should be, I sold my house to him or to her, right? You do not say, I sold my house to he. Therefore, it should be, I sold my house to her. And she is a doctor. If you were to make sentences out of it, you do not say, I sold my house to she. I sold my house to her. Therefore, you need a whom there. Okay. Look at the second and the fourth one. The first one is therefore wrong. The third seems to be correct. Let's look at the second one. The woman that I sell my house was a doctor. The simple present tense tells you that it is a continuous action in a way. It happens. It's a regular action. So you don't keep selling your house every day. That rules this out. The woman who the house I sold to was a doctor is unnecessarily twisted. It basically violates the simple word order in English, the general word order followed in English. So the answer is option 3. Let's look at the one side is the same in its grammatical form to the other side. So you're saying the population of New Delhi should be compared to the population of other cities, not other cities. You can say New Delhi is more populous than other cities. That's fine. Because you're comparing New Delhi itself to other cities. New Delhi is more populous than other cities. That's fine, because city to city comparison is okay. But the population of New Delhi is more than other cities in India is incorrect. The population of Delhi is more than that of, meaning the population of, that refers to the population. Population of any other city in India seems to be okay. If you look at the third one, more, greater is the double comparative. ER itself is the comparative degree, so more, greater makes the double comparative and hence incorrect. The population of Delhi is much greater than those of any other city. So those is used only when you have a plural. So you can say something like, the roads of New Delhi are much cleaner than those of any other city. Fine, because roads is plural, you can use those. But here, we're talking about something that is uncountable. Population, all uncountable nouns are treated as singulars. Therefore, the population of New Delhi is much greater than that of any other city in India. Is fine. Okay. So, the population of India is more than that of any other city in India is the right expression. So, this is a pretty simple comparison question, not a tough grammar one. So, you should be able to get this right. Let's look at the next question. Their streets are too narrow, so no parking of cars are allowed on both sides of the road. This is another question type in which a part of the sentence is underlined, and you have to identify the right replacement for it. So if you see, if you look at the options, you have are allowed and is allowed. First, we have to decide if it is are allowed or is allowed. You use are allowed when the subject is plural, because are is a plural verb. So if you ask a question, what is allowed or what is not allowed, the answer to that is parking is not allowed. You don't say cars are not allowed, parking is not allowed. Because parking is singular, you need is allowed. Remove all options in which you have are. is allowed on neither side is allowed on either side. You already have a no here. So the streets are too narrow, they're pretty narrow, very narrow, excessively narrow. This word too tells you that they're excessively narrow, to an unwanted degree narrow. So, as a result of which, no parking of cars is allowed on either side of the road. You cannot say neither, because neither makes it double negative. Negative of negative is positive, thereby telling you the parking of cars is allowed on either side. So your answer should be no parking is allowed. It can also mean one between two. So you say either, it means both brothers can, or when you say either of my brothers is available, there it means one between those two brothers is available. So it depends on the context. Either can mean either, right? Either can mean both or one between two. Right, let's look at the next question. Ram felt very dashed when he failed to score the qualifying marks in the entrance test. Pretty simple blank in terms of whether you need a positive word or negative word. Before you look at the options, look at what words you would use here. When is a good connector, telling you that when this happened, he failed to score. So when someone fails to score, you need a positive, you definitely need a negative word. Because you need a negative word here, rule out all options which are positive. Jubilant means excited, full of energy, enthusiasm, fun. You are happy. So you say the Indian crowd is better. Sachin hit a 6. So jubilant is incorrect. Thrilled also is positive. As you know, thrilled is excited, enthusiastic, full of energy, full of verve, etc. So you either have bored or gloomy. Bored is negative. However, the context is different. You're bored when you do not have anything exciting to do. Here it doesn't mention that Ram did not have anything exciting to do. On the other hand, what it means is Ram failed to score, which means he should feel sad, he should feel low, his spirits should be down. So we need a word which means that. And the word that means that is precisely gloomy. Because gloomy means sad and dull, having no energy. So the answer that best fits the context is gloomy. Even if you do not know the meaning of the word gloomy, you can rule out the others, because you cannot be bored when you fail to score the qualifying marks. You cannot be jubilant or thrilled because they are both positive. Okay, so we have a pretty short passage. Let's read this and then come to the questions. Before that, let's see how many questions are based on this. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5 questions. All right, let's get started. Look at the. We're going to read this together, and any difficult questions that we have, we shall try to, any difficult sentences that we have, we shall try to break them down into parts and then look at the questions. Before that, there are certain words here. One is hardship and the other is prompted. Let's see the meanings as and when we arrive at these words when we read the passage. It basically helps you to remember these words, because when the moment you come across them, you can immediately come to these questions. Hardship and prompted. Let's get started. Hunger is one of the indicators of the magnitude of social injustices. Magnitude means intensity, measure, or the weight, how much something is present, of social injustices that exist in the world. Its existence can be traced back to very many years. So the author says, hunger is an indicator of how much social injustice is present in the world, and hunger has been present for many years now. The French Revolution in the 18th century was driven not only by demands for political freedom, but also by the lack of bread in Paris. So this sentence highlights the role of hunger in revolutions in the past. Food has been the cause and effect of many riots occurring whenever government policies caused severe economic hardship. So food, as a result, meaning lack of food here, has been the cause and effect of many riots. You might have heard the word riot before, where you have uncontrollable violence. People tend to fight with each other or against the government, occurring whenever government policies cause severe economic hardship. So whenever the government caused hardship, the word that we were looking for, economic hardship, economic meaning related to money, and clashed with the basic human right to food. Let's see what word can best replace hardship here. Look at the question on hardship. Which of the following is the synonym of hardship as used in the passage? So let's try to replace this with all the words that are given. We have difficulty, one of the options. Severe economic difficulty. So when you have difficulty, economic difficulty, when you do not have enough money, obviously there will be rights, right? So difficulty can be an answer. Let's look at the other options. Dilemma, on the other hand, means you do not know which choices to choose from. So you're stuck between two choices. That is when you have a dilemma. But here, you do not have a choice. You do not have money. You do not have money to buy food. Convenience is definitely wrong because it's positive. Comfort is definitely wrong because it's positive. Between difficulty and dilemma, which of these fits better in the context is what we should decide. Severe economic hardship. So when government policies leave you with no money, it is hardship. It is an economic difficulty. It's not a dilemma. It is not a situation in which you're stuck between two choices. So the answer should be difficulty and clashed with the basic human right to food. All right. So your answer should be difficulty here. The other word we're looking for is prompted. Let's establish that as well as we go along. Tea was a non-edible food item that was used as a protest tool by a group of Boston citizens to protest the British tax on tea imported to the colonies. So tea is being imported to the colonies, British colonies. You know, Britain basically believed in colonization and enhancing its own wealth. So tea was a non-edible food item that was used as a protest tool by the group of Boston citizens. If you've heard about something called the Boston Tea Party in American history, you would know that. The food crises around the world prompted the establishment of the World Food Program. So we have food crises. You know, crisis is a situation in which there is great difficulty. So these difficulties in procuring food and feeding the people prompted the establishment of the World Food Program. Okay, so in the light of that sentence, let's understand what could be the meaning of the word prompted. We know that the food crises have prompted the establishment of the World Food Program, implying that the word prompted should mean that the crises led to. So we need a word which means led to. Let's analyze the meanings of the words in the options here. Discouraged to discourage is to ask somebody not to do something, right? So, you know, your parents discourage you from driving too fast, etc. Encourage is to ask someone to do something or to lead something. To essentially encourage means led, right? Disposed is thrown away. So to throw away is to dispose. So you say you need to dispose of your waste in a proper manner. And dismissed means to remove someone from a position or office. He was dismissed on accounts of fraud, so on. So to remove from a position or office. Based on all of these, we can easily understand that the word encouraged replaces the word prompted pretty well. If you were to go back to the passage again and try to apply each of these words, discouraged, encouraged, disposed, and dismissed, we see that it's encouraged that fits the context best. So the food crises around the world prompted, meaning the food crises around the world encouraged the establishment or led to the establishment. However, the question here asks for an antonym of the word encouraged, as you see. So the answer should be option 1, discouraged.
Guys, I hope I'm audible to you all. And if there is anyone who has a doubt still here, you can just raise your hand and I will pass them to you. And after 2 minutes, the first session is gonna be end, and you have to log in again or just to click on a link or log in the class link. The link will remain the same for another 40 minutes extra. So if anyone has doubt regarding to the lecture, you can just raise your hand, then I will pass the mic to you, then you will speak about your queries, then we'll try to solve the questions here. If anyone has doubt, please. Is anyone has doubt, please? If you have doubt, you just raise your hand, because in 1 minute or 1:30 we'll be ending this first session. Then you have to log in again to the same link, and you have to continue with the lecture. He's explaining something important to you all regarding to verbal reasoning test, and he's giving much explanations in grammar, and this part of verbal reasoning will be having 40 marks. You guys, you have to take this all 40 marks, and you remain for struggling only for 10 marks in this exam. And I hope you guys, you can do it, right? Is anyone want to speak something before we end this first session? Hence, we can continue after 1 minute. Is anyone want to speak something? All right. So join the same link after this 1 minute. Let we end this first session by here. Then we have to continue by the second session in the next meeting. Just right now, join the same link. Thank you so much. Most welcome to the second session, guys. My name is Shalom, a student assistant in Pandit Identity University as well. Let me continue where the lecturer was stopping for. Then if you have any doubt or question, you can put the question or doubt in the comment section. Then we will try to hand over all queries in this second session. Thank you so much and keep watching.
from driving too fast, etc. Encourage is to ask someone to do something or to lead something. To essentially encourage means led, right? Disposed is thrown away. So to throw away is to dispose. So you say you need to dispose of your waste in a proper manner. And dismissed means to remove someone from a position or office. He was dismissed on account of fraud, so on. So to remove from a position or office. Based on all of these, we can easily understand that the word encouraged replaces the word prompted pretty well. If you were to go back to the passage again and try to apply each of these words, discouraged, encouraged, disposed, and dismissed, we see that it's encouraged that fits the context best. So the food crises around the word prompted, meaning the food crises around the world, encouraged the establishment or led to the establishment. However, the question here asks for an antonym of the word encouraged, as you see. So the answer should be option 1, discouraged. If it were synonym, your answer would be encouraged. But because it says antonym, the answer should be discouraged. Let's go to question 12 now, as we have read. So, why was the World Food Program established? So, if you want to answer this question again, the answer to this question lies in the same sentence. It says the world food crises led to the establishment, encouraged the establishment of the World Food Program, implying that the World Food Program has been put in place, has been instituted to address the issue of global food crises. That is found directly in 4. That might be the right answer, but let's look at the other options as well. To regulate the faulty distribution of food. The distribution of food has not been mentioned anywhere in the entire passage, so that is not a great way. Besides, it's not even linked to the establishment. To utilize the surplus of resources. The passage doesn't say that there are surplus of resources and the World Food Program is established to address that issue. To eradicate discrimination in food supply. Again, a discrimination in food supply has not been mentioned in the passage as the reason for establishing the World Food Program. So your answer should be option 4. So the learning from this is, do not read the entire passage in one go. As you read, after you've completed 100 to 150 to 200 words, it fits you to kind of come to the questions and see whatever you can answer based on what you've heard so far or read so far, because those thoughts are still fresh in your memory. And it is easy for you to arrive at answers by looking at the fresh thoughts in your mind. If you read the passage in its entirety, it becomes difficult for you to recollect specific thoughts from the passage, which in turn leads to issues of recollection and then going back to reading, again meaning the passage is kind of not fresh in your memory, all right? Let's look at the statement again. The food crises around the world prompted the establishment. So the World Food Program was essentially established to remove the food crises around the world. Next. In addition, many other United Nations agencies have included hunger or food security in their work programs. Let's see if we can answer any other questions. The author describes the scope of hunger to be dash. And question 1, the author considers hunger as dash. Let's see. These include the United Nations Children Education Fund, which is your UNICEF, the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, WHO, and the different United Nations missions to war-torn countries. The term hunger is loosely defined, and the meaning is often adapted to serve the purposes of those who may be experiencing it. So the author says the term hunger is loosely defined, right? We do not have a good definition. It's just loosely defined everywhere. And the meaning is often adapted to someone experiencing it. So hunger is essential experience, according to the author. Especially in affluent countries, hunger is the gnawing pain in the stomach when a meal is missed. So when you look at affluent countries, rich countries, hunger is that pain, the biting, the chewing pain in your stomach when a meal is missed. On the other extreme, hunger is the physical depletion of those suffering from chronic undernutrition. Hunger can also mean physical depletion. Depletion is a lack, reduction. So people who have not been fed well for so long, they tend to not grow well. They do not reach adequate height or the weight is not proper. Hunger is, however, multidimensional. So according to the author, Hunger is not that extreme or this extreme. It is multidimensional. It has many dimensions to it, and it encompasses, means it includes the emotional and political aspects of the society. So hunger is not just how you feel or whether you're overnourished or undernourished. Hunger is more than that, according to the author. It is emotional and political. It includes the anguish, the deep pain, the deep-rooted pain of a farmer faced with the choice of selling the produce from his farm to pay rent for the land or feeding his family with the food. So farmers, especially in developing countries such as India, they're faced with the choice of selling the produce from his farm to pay rent for the land or feeding his family with the food. So the farmer doesn't know whether he should sell the rice he has to feed his to pay his rent or use the same rice to feed his family. That as well as hunger, according to the author. Hunger involves the grief of, the pain of, the sadness of, the suffering of, watching in helplessness as loved ones die for breaking the practices and policies set by a handful of elites. Elites here means the privileged people. So the privileged people, the rich ones, the educated, actually better off people, they break practices and policies, and this basically causes helplessness of people who are not so elite. Now let's look at the questions. The author considers hunger as dash, a cause of evil, a feature worth measuring, a feature common in every culture, a feature to be ignored. So let's look at each of these. A cause of revolutions. If you look at the example here, the French Revolution in the 18th century was driven not only by political freedom but also by the lack of bread in Paris. Food has been the cause and effect of many riots as well, occurring when the government policies cause severe economic hardship. So all this tells you that food essentially could have been a cause of revolutions, hunger, a cause of revolutions. A feature worth measuring. Nowhere does the author talk about the ability to measure hunger, so that is out of scope. It's a feature common in every culture. The author never says that it's common in every culture. It says in affluent countries, hunger might be present as annoying pain. On the other extreme, in the poor countries as well, it might be present. A feature to be ignored? Definitely not, because the author says hunger is something that leads to a lot of revolutions, and it is a very important factor in deciding the future of a nation. So, cause of revolutions is a very valid answer. Let's look at the last question. The author describes the scope of hunger to be dash. If you look at the scope of hunger, here the author says hunger is multidimensional. It covers many dimensions. It covers the emotional and political aspects of the society. So it is not just a lack of food. It is the pain of the farmer. It is the grief when you cannot provide for your loved ones. So with this background, let's try to look at this question. It is a mere non-availability of food. So the author definitely tells you that it is not a mere non-availability of food. Besides, it's not just a feature of poverty, because the author said even the rich people, the affluent countries have have hunger. A feature with its effects beyond the biological needs of human beings, right? So how is it beyond the biological needs? Because it also has emotional and political aspects attached to it. Therefore, it is not just this. It is not just biology. It is a disposable element, means it can be done away with in rich societies. The author says even rich societies sometimes have hunger when they feel annoying pain because their meal is delayed or because they choose not to eat. Therefore, the answer should be option 3 here. So as you keep reading, see if you can answer a few questions. That is one of the best ways in which you can maximize your score on the RCs and at the same time minimize your time. So overall, apart from the grammar questions and vocabulary questions, fill in the blanks questions are relatively on the easier side for this test. If you have scored anywhere between 10 and 12, you are an above average performer. Anything better than 12 tells you that you are a very strong performer in verbal ability. Thanks a lot for paying attention to this session. If you have any questions, as always, please keep writing them in your comments. We'll be more than happy to give one of those questions.
Hello, guys. I hope the session goes well. If anyone has doubt for today's session, you can unmute yourself, then you can speak up any query or any problem regarding to today's session and tell me how was the session for today. Just raise your hand, I will pass the mic to you. Am I audible, guys?
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Fred, you can speak. Yes, Ndabarasa Fred, you can unmute and speak.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
The session of today goes well. The session of today goes well, and we are thankful for your help, and we shall keep in touch. Thank you.
All right. Most welcome. Is anyone want to speak anything? Because we are at the end of session, we cannot take the next lecture because it is already 12 here, and we are only remaining like 10 minutes. Yes, David, you can unmute and speak up.
Okay, thank you. I thank you for your call to help to learn from this. But the question I have is about the last question. I didn't get well the meaning.
Can you increase the volume? Please be more louder. Can you be more louder, please?
Can you be more louder, please? Okay, thank you. I appreciate the question I have about the last question. I didn't get well the meaning of the question and the answer have proposed.
I cannot hear you. So maybe your mic has some problem. Is anyone want to speak something? I can see the message from Olivier Nyogusenga. He said the session was very good and well explained. It was perfect. Cheers to me. All right, cheers, guys. I can see the message from Felistin Daishimie. Thank you for today's class. It was perfect. Most welcome. Is anyone want to speak anything? All right. So I hope by now we can end today's class, and we are on Sunday. Yes, we are on Sunday. Tomorrow it is Monday. Let me see. Yes, tomorrow also we will schedule the class because yesterday evening we didn't study. So tomorrow also we have to schedule class at the same time. You guys be on time, and I will even update you inbox 3, and I will update you as well in the group. And if you miss any part of the class, or if you know someone who missed the class, we are live on YouTube channel called Mfashigihe Seti. Go there to the YouTube channel. You will find all sessions we are doing here. Then you can even subscribe there if you want to just to watch another sessions, or if you want also to get more sessions. All sessions we made is already there. I can see Ndabara Safredi's message. I wish we can be sharing the notes in WhatsApp group, please. There is no note because I cannot just write a note for you guys. If we are giving you a lecture, you have to take small pad and pen, then start writing some tips. So if you are not taking some tips, is your loss. I cannot do everything for you guys. I hope I'm making myself clear, and I'm I can start the message. Please, Shalom, can you give us the link of YouTube? Saying yes, the link of YouTube we will be sharing in WhatsApp group is there. But even you can search the name Fashigi Heseti. I'm writing the name of YouTube channel in the comment section. All right, I can see Fashigi Heseti shared the YouTube link. That is the YouTube link. You can just click on that link. Even you can write Fashigi Heseti. The link is there. All right. Is anyone has doubt? That YouTube channel may help us for all even the vision. The session of today was very well explained. Thank you, Safi Kerry. The YouTube channel is already shared by Fashigi Hesetis there, and you can go there and you can watch all sessions we did before and the session we will do will be there as well. Right now,